Trader, and this is your market wrap for July 15th, 2019. Coming into today, we had a bullish bias on the Qs and SPY. We have an hourly uptrend in place. Just following that along, you can see that we are making higher lows, higher highs. So by definition, we are in an uptrend and we continue to work our way higher. So just following that uptrend along, if we break underneath today's low on the SPY there, same with the Qs there, will be our first semblance of kind of slowing down of the uptrend. But for now, going into tomorrow, we're going to remain bullish and pullbacks are buyable. Okay. Really, this seems to be the area so far that really needs to be broken, or we need to get underneath if this market's going to put in a top, if we're going to start a downtrend. I know, the top, we probably won't pick the top, but as long as we're in this uptrend that continues to grind higher, I think that's the wise thing to do. I think, I've been there before as a novice trader where each time the market makes new highs and doesn't necessarily skyrocket or, take off, you think, okay, maybe this is the top. And you continuously try to pick the top only to be wrong over and over. I think that's one of the major benefits of technical analysis, and especially trend following, right, is that you're not constantly trying to pick the top and bottoms on things that are just telling you that we have demand and we are moving, or demand or supply, and we are moving in one direction. So this is a pretty healthy uptrend that we have on the hourly, the daily, the weekly looks fine, the monthly looks higher. So, I don't think that we necessarily need to be getting in here as the hourly, right, breaks to new highs here. But the overall bias for the short term and the long term going into tomorrow remains bullish, okay, on the Qs and SPY. So some nice bullishness there. All right, let's hop into what we saw today. So we did have the C report. That's the big one. This wasn't played. The C did kind of get sold in the morning, did a gap bury, and then actually recovered. I think this was okay. I thought it was kind of aggressive. So the C larger time frames weren't that weak, so I didn't really want to play a gap bury on this. So that would be a short on this as it was getting sold. This is just a 1, 2, 3 here. Here's your 1. Your mostly inside bar, or it is all the way inside, but this retracement's a little bit strong, and then came in, right? So this is actually an okay sell setup, but this sell setup, like I said, is in the context of a bullish symbol, so I don't want to go after it. So the C, one play would have worked, one play didn't. Overall, I didn't like the bigger picture here on the C, so no plays on that. That was the kind of the major one reporting. We do have more banks reporting tomorrow morning. The number one gap today was the CPE. Okay, the CPE. This was played. This was actually Sammy's call on the CPE. And this was played in the morning off of the 1 minute. So what happened was this initially got bought, explored up to these highs, and then came back in and then based below the highs there. So you can see this based and then broke down. So the play was underneath this 574 was the entry. And I think they took it all. Yeah, they trailed some, I think, on those lows, and then the rest came out as the 5 minute trail. Okay, so that was a very nice play to start off the morning there on the CPE. That was the play right off the open there. They were acquiring CRZO. Typically that news is bearish. Not always, but most of the time. So you can see kind of the way that this rallied, kind of ran out of steam and then set up a base, right? And then broke down from that base. Now, the SYMC, which was a call for me here in the afternoon, we got a very similar setup here. Here's the numbers and kind of how we managed it. But let me show you the setup. And I'll bring those numbers back on in case you want to look at it later in the afternoon. See this on the SYMC? So if we compare what we saw there on the CPE And then what we got here, rally, base, and then the breakdown. Okay, very, very similar. So here it is again, SYMC, rally up, and then you set up this base below the highs, right off the highs. I don't like when they're basing at the highs and then break down right from the highs. I want to see some semblance of lower highs being established here. So that's what I saw on the 5 as well on the SYMC here, right? Kind of put in a lower high there. We're starting to look like we want a downtrend. So we had a short play on the SYMC. So underneath this base here, and then once we broke down under 22.10, stop at 22.33. I was using this one here. I guess it would have been nice to use an even tighter stop, but I just wanted to make sure that we didn't get shaken out. And was looking to get to the lows and beyond. This ended up trailing out around 64 because we trailed it on the 2-minute. And then the very last piece came out break even. We saved a quarter to trail on the hourly here, and that actually trailed break even on that last piece. So this pattern worked out pretty well today. Here it is again on the CPE, right? So if you take this, look at it on the 1-minute here or the 2-minute. I think 2-minute had a very nice sell setup as well. You have the sell setup, the base, and then the breakdown, and then on the SYMC, right? We had the 15-minute rally, base, and then breakdown. I don't know if news came up or something. I did want to see this move further because I thought this was a pretty good gap, a bit oversized, I would say, and we really did get back to the area that it was before the kind of news of the talks came out that AVGO was interested in acquiring SYMC. But either way, it was a nice 2 Rs on that front 3 quarters, and then the last piece was break even. So some nice follow through there. This was pretty painless, which is always nice. And you get that breakdown, and then it just kind of goes nice and steady. You can see we went to a 2-minute bar by bar, and that's why I trailed out right in here. So pretty nice kind of painless play. I don't expect them all to be like that, but it is nice when they kind of work out that way. Wasn't really considering playing along. It did get a nice move up there, enough to trail us out, but you can see that it's actually going to close up here more towards the highs. So management is fine, even if we didn't get all of it out at the bottom. So that's all right. So those were really the only 2 things played today. There were other stuff. I did pass on this HI, which was pretty good. This wasn't one of the initial gaps that we liked because it wasn't on the list, actually. It came up later. So this HI was buying someone on Friday. They got an upgrade today, cleared this, and then into this void here. So the play on this was actually over this little breakout here. So you see this basing up here at the highs, and then got a breakout. That breakout held and moved really, really nicely on this. And then, but I know some people in the room did play it because I did get a question when it was underway. What is the final target on this, or what should be the targets? I said 36.50 because that was support here, right? This little pivot here, 36.51. And as we move back up, should be some resistance there. So this, I think, got to 36.55. So broke into the void, got nice follow through on the HI. Was just a little bit spready. That's why I passed on it, and that turned out to be a really, really nice play, actually. So, but I think we'll get more of that, so I'm not too heartbroken over that one. But overall, between the SYMC and CPE, I think people did pretty well today. So, hopefully it's just a sign of more to come as earnings season continues to pick up. All right, so yeah, pretty short session here because I thought we were pretty nice and focused today. The 2 favorites that I had, at least in the pre-market, were the CPE. I did like the SYMC, but I did want to see that kind of play out a little bit. That one came up kind of later. And I did like this IP as well, but the IP never set up. So I did like this gap. I want to see this clear, maybe challenge this other pivot here to the left. I really like this weekly here. This weekly looks lower. So, there may be more follow through to come. Look at this weekly. It looks lower, doesn't it? Yeah, nice downtrend here going on in the IP here. So this was one of the favorites, but we got bought, I think, right initially on the IP. Yeah. And then this was too sloppy here. You can see there's like a gap here. Not really a gap, but, price didn't really trade very fluidly. We got lots of tails. So you can just see like the difference in the quality of this base. Like say you're going to play this breakdown here, right, at the lows here, right? We got some red, some green, some red, right? Basing down there, but kind of sloppy overall. And then you look at the how tight the SYMC, for instance, how tight that base was as it was setting up to break down. And that was just much, much tighter. Look how much cleaner that is, right? Much tighter here, much cleaner, right? In the way that we base. And then especially right before we get ready to go, right? Then we get our tightest bars. So that's more what I want to see. It's a little bit sloppy in here, right? But you can see that it kind of cleans itself up as it moves along and then right before it triggers. And that's pretty ideal, okay? All right, so that's going to do it for today's market wrap. Should be an interesting week as we get underway here with earnings season. So hope you're excited. Hope you did well today. If not, we'll be back at it tomorrow, and we'll see what the market brings us. All right, have a good evening, everyone.